Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sports Today. Now, before I start the day today, I have to tell you that in 2019, there was a movie that came out, and all of us across India were ringing with, "How's the Josh?" I think 2020 has taken it away from us because now we're going to say, "How's the Josh?" Well, let's have Bora Majumdar and Deepdas Gupta joining us. And, gentlemen, I fear to ask this: how's the Josh? Because it's been a dreadful day for us. I think the lowest score that India has ever made in Test cricket, 36 for 9. And let me tell you that yesterday we were debating about a 275 and a 240. And we said 275 is luxury.
Yeah.
And we see this day. And before I start, I just have to ask a question. And I might be sort of crossing the line here, but I still want to ask that, is India really a test playing nation? And are we prepared to play ping ball tests in overseas conditions? Gurada?
The answer to both is yes. And I mean, whatever may have happened, it's a disaster, it's shocker, spectacularly awful, abominable, however many adjectives you want to use, you should use. Having said that, I've got to say this. Let's not write this team off. Melbourne will be different. I can tell you, and also let's put it in perspective. The Australian bowlers, and the captain said it multiple times, and I will not be able to tell you some detail, but I am going to tell you, within the Indian team think tank, from whatever I know over the last 3-4 hours, the bowlers weren't doing anything that they did not do in the first innings. So to say that they were unplayable balls, etc., is not the right thing. All said and done, and we will break a lot of news on this show. All said and done, Deep is a cricketer. He will tell you more. But I do think, yes, India is a test playing nation. Yes, India is a good test playing country. And honestly, this was an aberration. I don't think we will see anything close to this in either Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane.
Deep, your take on it? And your take on, I think, half the day. That's all it took. By the time people woke up in India, it was done.
I was on a flight. We took off at 9:30, and I was like, "Listen, I'm just trying to get back, land, and watch India." And I actually thought India's ahead in this game. I landed at 11:15, 11:30, and the game was over. I was like, "Am I seeing this correctly? Am I seeing the scorecard correctly?" And listen, nothing can justify 36. Great bowling, bad pitch. You cannot justify 36. 136, 100. Understandable, whatever. Then you can say, great bowling, bad pitch, bad shot selection. 36, that's the lowest in last 65 years of Test cricket. Last 65 years. And I'm talking about uncovered pitches, wet pitches, all inclusive. Front foot no ball, n number of short pitch bowling, all that, right? In 65 years, this is the lowest. So you cannot justify saying anything at all. You just got to tip your hat. Brilliantly bowled. No two ways about it. But 36, and what I'm concerned about, there are losses, and this is beyond that. You lose games, and this is not the first time India will lose. We've all lost. I mean, in sport, you lose. But this loss it's not even a loss and a half. It is much more than that. And now the thing is, how do you recover? See, this series will be, I don't see any drawn test matches. So you'll win some, you'll lose some. But this loss is much beyond all that. And now the biggest challenge is not about winning or losing, is recovering from this. A 36 recovering from this when you were ahead in a test match. Mind you, India, before the start of the third day, was ahead in the test match. From there, I don't know. And it's disappointing, man, because I was again on another flight, and for those hour and a half, I just couldn't think of anything. I tried reading a book, I tried listening to music, but you can't take your mind off this.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we managed to keep them under 200, and then we crumble like this. A lot of questions, but let's dive straight into the thing that all of us want to know. Brother Shami and his injury, and any update on that?
Yeah. Yeah, Virat Kohli said at the press conference that Mohammad Shami was in serious pain. Yes, he is. the latest that we get on Mohammad Shami, and this is the kind of news we can break at the moment, is Mohammad Shami obviously went for scans, and what I get from the team there is he's able to move his hand. Now that's the
Okay.
good part of the news. So I am told that the medical staff, physio and medical staff, they feel, and Deep can again tell us more, that if he is able to move his hand, he might be in pain, but if he's able to move his hand, it's not a fracture, and he should be ready. That's what I get, having spoken to people in Australia in the know. Don't ask me what, how, but that's what I'm getting, that Mohammad Shami was able to move his hand in the dressing room. Even, he was in serious pain. Make no mistake about it. Having said that, that's the update. Deep, if that is the update, that he was able to move his hand, what does that tell you? Does it give you a little bit of hope that he still has a chance and it might not be a fracture, or make me understand? But that's the news part of Mohammad Shami.
So, so the idea is if you can move your hand, obviously it's not a fracture. There can still be a hairline fracture, but it's not a major fracture. But even a hairline fracture will keep him away for a while. That's one. Good that he's is moving his hands and all that. But the other important thing is you recover. You'll actually know the extent of all that only tomorrow, after 24 hours or 48 hours, the actual extent of pain and everything else. At this point in time, it's only been 12, 13 hours or 14 hours. So you still have that adrenaline going. So you'll only figure it out, the complete extent, in 24 to 48 hours. But him moving his hand is good, that it's not a very serious thing. It's not something that might rule him out of the series. But even if it's a hairline or something, that might rule him out for one test match, is what I can say.
Okay. All right. We've got a lot of questions coming in comment section, and I think this is one thing that everybody would want to ask. And it's Riddhiman Saha and a question mark. I just take it as is to both of you. Borada Riddhiman Saha in the next match, and how do you see his so far journey in Test cricket against Australia?
Both of us advocated Riddhiman Saha, saying that Pant could have also been
Exactly,
played, but
yeah.
both of us advocated Riddhiman Saha and said he's ahead only just. I will say that I don't see Riddhiman Saha playing in Melbourne. And I will also say that Riddhiman Saha's inability with the bat in overseas conditions, something Deep Dasgupta mentioned, that, and Deep Dasgupta said very rightly that, he's not failed yet, so let's see that. And he hasn't, there are two things here. One, you fail. One is, how do you fail? What is the look of you to fail? Somebody shows intent, plays an unplayable delivery, gets out, etc. In Riddhiman Saha's case, I'm sorry to say, but I didn't think from the two innings that I saw him that he's capable of getting runs in these conditions. That for me stood out. That maybe in Indian conditions he's okay, he's fine, but in overseas conditions against genuinely good quality fast bowling, Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, I don't see Riddhiman Saha retaining his spot in Melbourne, and Rishabh Pant will come in. That's my sense. And okay, let Deep answer. There's a bit of a thing on Riddhiman Saha. I'll come, but I want Deep's opinion because he's the keeper.
Deep.
See, couple of things. Second test match, as Boria mentioned, it did not look comfortable. Same with Prithvi. 2 innings. Generally, we'd say, 2 innings, you couldn't judge. You shouldn't judge. But again, the look of it, both Prithvi and Riddhiman, just tells you that maybe it's time to look at Rishabh. That's one. Secondly, I mean, listen, he was your first choice. You've given him an opportunity. Did not work. Again, it's not just the quantum; it's just the way he was batting. So I think it's time to look at Rishabh, one. And secondly, also now that Virat is not there, you would want to bolster your batting. Obviously, Rohit will not be available, might not be available for the second test match either, or will not be rather available. So yeah, I mean, Rishabh, for me, I think it's time to look at Rishabh.
We've also got a question. It might be a little harsh, but the question is, do you see this as the end of road for Saha?
No, maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, but again, Deep will have to tell us more, because I'll add to that question and go to Deep. Does he look to be able to score in overseas conditions? Because Deep has scored in overseas conditions, be it South Africa, where he saved that test match for India. He's been part of an Indian team to Australia. does Riddhiman Saha look to be able to score in overseas conditions? And he's got to get that right. Is it the end of the road? In sport, it's too harsh to say end of the road so early. You don't say that. But my point is, and Deep, does Riddhiman Saha, yes, he did not look comfortable, but you've got to figure out a way to score. I didn't see that in Riddhiman Saha. So what is your thought on that?
See, my thought is that the fact that, as you mentioned, doesn't look comfortable. One end of the road, again, I agree. You never say never for any sports person, right? There's a reason why they're there, because all of them are champions. I mean, if you aren't, you don't reach that level. But it looks unlikely also because of his age. He's not a spring chicken by any stretch of imagination. Uh, I think it's time. Would again, I mean, you never know. Again, now the ball would be in Rishabh's court. It boils down to what he does. Again, what happens is when somebody fails, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again, that the guy who's not playing always looks better than the guy who's playing, especially when you're not winning and you're losing. So let Rishabh come in. But the idea is, if there isn't a third wicket keeper per se, I know people will be talking about Ishan Kishore, Sanju Samson, because of recently what we've seen in the IPL, but this is test match cricket, right? So yes, it's time to move on. Look at Rishabh. Whether it's time for Riddhi, never say never, but it looks very, very difficult for him to make a comeback, especially if Rishabh gets runs. And we mentioned this, Rishabh is not a bad keeper, he's a good keeper. Riddhiman happens
Yeah.
to be a better keeper, but that does not mean Rishabh is incredible. He's not, please. So he's a good keeper. And let's say this: that's how what I expect from Rishabh is him being safe as a keeper and good as a batsman, and I'm happy with that combination. I don't want a brilliant wicket keeper. I'm happy with being somebody who's safe, and then obviously with age, with experience, he'll learn more, he'll get better. But he's already good. What I'm looking for is him being safe and scoring runs as of now. With age, with experience, he'll become better both with the bat and also with the gloves.
Ridhima, I would just want to add to that saying, if we are going Rishabh, which we are, I can tell
Yeah.
you this, and I'm fairly sure about this when I say it. If we are going Rishabh, we should go Rishabh for 8 test matches. Sorry, 7. 3 here and 4 against England. Give him a go. Tell him that, we are giving it to you. Now, you are our first choice keeper for 7 games. So go make the most of that opportunity. I mean, once you go to someone, give him that go, and don't change after 2 games. I'll go back to Riddhi, I'll go back to so and so, I'll go back to
True,
so and so. This is test match
true.
cricket. You give him that go and give him that
So
confidence. As Deep said, he's proven himself. Both Deep and I felt Riddhiman deserved a chance, and I still feel so. That Riddhiman deserved a chance. He's fluffed that chance because
Yeah.
there was every reason for him to score 20 odd in each innings, rather look comfortable in each innings the way he got
yeah,
out. Where was the power? Cut, gone. There was no power also in that shot. So yes, and also Rishabh is a left-hander. You need to break that monotony, which will help. No Virat means batting is a little more fragile. So definitely Rishabh Pant for Melbourne, but give him a longer rope.
Yeah.
but again,
Yeah.
I mean, just to add to that, and I completely agree, because the team management also has to think about this. You can't come across after every series saying that this guy is our number one, and the next series he's not there. Right? And this has
Hmm.
happened in the last year or so. When you've said, he's so you never know at this point in time. Does anyone have an idea who's India's number one wicketkeeper in Test match cricket? I mean, I don't know. Last 2 years, it's been going from one person to the other. So, just as Boria mentioned, you just give that confidence to someone, whoever it is, and say, you know what, you are our number one, and stick with it, right?
Yeah.
So, Riddiman was number one. New Zealand, he did not play. you know I
Yeah.
mean, if that's the case, then don't say who's number one. Just say, we'll see, we'll look at conditions and stuff like that. Don't commit. So once you commit, and what happens is, you say something and don't follow through, that does not help the whole side or everyone who's part of it. You just be consistent in what you say, or don't say. Don't commit. If you commit, just be consistent. And as Boria mentioned, if you're going to give someone like Rishabh a chance, say, you know what, the next few test matches is yours. Don't worry
Hmm.
about it. This is what we expect of you. Go out there and do your best.
No, fab point. I really like that point. Now, in the comment section, we are talking about a lot of combinations. Will Jadeja play and also? I'm just going to cut it short. I'm going to ask your playing 11 for the next test.
Oh,
Gaurav?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there will be four changes from what I understand. The fourth is a forced change if Mohammad Shami doesn't play. So we've got to wait on that. If Mohammad Shami is okay, then obviously Mohammad Shami plays. Then three. One will be Rishabh Pant comes in for Saha. Second is Shubman Gill comes in for Prithvi Shaw, and Rahul comes in for Virat Kohli. That's what I think will happen in Melbourne, and we will be able to confirm this obviously closer to date. But from what I know, from what I've spoken, from what I sense, uh, this is what I'm getting, that India will make three changes. Prithvi Shaw will give way to Shubman Gill. KL Rahul will bat for Virat Kohli, and Ridhiman Saha will give way to Rishabh Pant. Mohammad Shami, if he doesn't play, then I see a debut for Mohammad Siraj. So I'm saying that also on record on Sports
Nice.
Today for the first time, that I see a debut for Mohammad Siraj from what I sense. Again, I sense this, so don't jump saying where are you getting it from, etc., etc. I'm not supposed to say anything on that, but from what I sense, if Mohammad Shami doesn't play, it might be Mohammad Siraj.
What about you, Deep? Any changes to that lineup, or you completely agree with it?
yeah, I think Shubman Gill comes in, KL comes in, and I've mentioned this before. Uh, Talking about Virat and what happens when he leaves, I've mentioned saying, I won't mind KL in the middle order at all. The kind of form that he is in, because after something like this, 36, you need guys who are in good form, irrespective of which format they are. You need somebody in good form. You need a spark, and you need guys without baggages. So that is something. Someone like Rishabh, he comes with a spark. KL Rahul is in great form. I know it's a limited overs cricket, but he is in great form. So he brings that form and that confidence. Because after 36, listen, I've been part of losing sides, and the biggest hit that you get as a team is the confidence. So you get somebody who is in good confidence, who has good confidence individually, personally, who's been scoring runs again, irrespective of which format, and also can give you that spark. And someone like Rishabh, I'm not saying he's going to come and win you a game, but you never know. He has that X factor. We are all aware of it, and I think all we need is to give these guys some confidence. And the other one, I mean, Shubman Gill, again, somebody who's in good form, got those runs, look in brilliant touch. Get him back, get him rather in. So three here, and obviously the fourth one would be a force. But you know what? The question, I think that's a very interesting question with Jadeja there, and
Yeah.
something that I guess the team management needs to at least think about. I'm not saying just don't look at it at all, but just think about if Jadeja, because the way he's batting, can he be your sixth batsman? Okay, I'm just putting it on the table, right?
And
Something to think about.
that's a
Yeah.
very fair
So
point. That's a
you know,
very fair point.
look at it as a sixth batsman, and somebody obviously is an all rounder. So obviously he'll bowl as well. And now you're looking at day matches where in Adelaide and everything else, it can turn. And also, if Shami does not play, you're looking at a fourth bowler who's making his debut as well, right? You're looking at a Mohammad Siraj who, as Boria mentioned, or if it's not Mohammad Siraj, then it'll be Navdeep Sani, who also will be making his debut. So, do you need another bowling backup as an option if it doesn't work well with the debutant, or give him some cushion? So that is worth thinking about. Worth thinking about.
Okay, let me
No,
quickly
fair
add
point.
to that, because from what
Yeah.
I know, there has been quite a bit of introspection already about the dropped catches, and that's something Indian management is pretty miffed about now. And
Yeah, I mean,
from what I
even
know,
right now for Burns
yeah, I mean, from yesterday, from
from
what I
yesterday.
know, they sensed a 90 to 100 run lead, which came down to 50. They said uh, that trap was set from Manas Labuschagne was dropped. The trap was set for Tim Payne was dropped. Mayank Agarwal there, Prithvi Shaw there. Those were catches that you definitely take in Test match cricket. So that's another area which the team management and the think tank will be looking at. I know Team India will meet before Virat Kohli leaves tomorrow for one final maybe conversation with the captain before he leaves Australia to come back to India. And I can tell you this. I mean, The dressing room was in shock. But, this is where, and I'm saying this, Ravi Shastri, you've got to play a role. I mean, as the head coach of this Indian team, this is where the country will ask questions of Ravi Shastri. That Ravi Shastri will have to take the role and turn things around. Because, you know, Ajinkya Rahane is a new captain. He'll have to step up. For a
Yeah.
long time, he's a good player. But it's time he takes the thing on the chin and chirp. With Virat Kohli not there, the Australians will come hard. Ajinkya Rahane
Yes.
cannot be the good boy of cricket, for God's sake. He cannot be the good boy. You cannot stand behind and keep quiet. Ajinkya Rahane cannot keep quiet.
Yeah.
And it is Ravi Shastri's job, and I'm saying it on record, to get that mind space right. As head coach of this Indian cricket team, over the next week, it is Ravi and Ajinkya who have to get the boys up to speed. KL can contribute, he's a senior cricketer. And Ajinkya at the back has to start talking and giving it back, because Australia will come hard at you and will want to decimate you. So there's the challenge. It's here. Do you have it here? You overnight don't become a bad batsman. If you tell me, oh, Ajinkya is a bad batsman, Mayank is a bad batsman, Cheteshwar is a bad batsman, no, man. You've got to believe, you've got to score runs. You have to score runs. So that's where the challenge is. So Ravi Shastri, Ajinkya Rahane, next 7 days, perhaps the most important in Ajinkya's career to set things right.
Yes. It's going to be a very interesting time for Rahane. We have a lot of questions in the comment section also about words on him as a batsman. Deep, I think your internet is acting up. So yeah. So we're going to have a question like, what is your take on pink ball and spin?
Pink ball and what? What was the second part of
And
the question?
spin.
Listen,
spin.
I think Deep's there. Yeah, go for it, Deep.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you now.
I think pink ball and spin are two. I mean, the skill set required for a spinner is a little different. You might not get as much turn as you might with day test matches on a different surface, different ball. But what I think is, you get drift, you get bounce, especially in Australia. So the skill set is different. So when you talk about spin bowling and pink ball day and night, I think there is definitely a place for spin bowlers, but it might not be the traditional thing that you see from a spinner. Turning, bouncing. Might not be that to that extent. Rather, skill set could be a little different, like a little more drift, a little more variation. I think it'll evolve. I mean, spinners will evolve. I mean, listen, when T20 started, nobody gave a chance to spinners, right? They said, "Yo, spinners, blah blah blah. It's gonna kill spinners and all that." It hasn't, right? I mean, so bowlers are the ultimate survivors in our sport, and they will find a way, like they have over the years. Rules have changed, things have changed, but you always have the bowler surviving.
Yeah. All right. So this is always I wanted to ask, because we have heard commentators speak about pace and everything, but nobody's really talking about the spin and pink balls. This is just a question that I had. All right, we've got Akshay asking, how about Jadeja in for Virat in Melbourne Test?
No. If you've got to get a top quality batsman and that scale, so no, not Jadeja. Jadeja can come in, as Deep said, maybe as the sixth, but then you drop Hanuma Vihari. And again, that was something I wanted to put on the table. That if Shubman Gill and KL Rahul do perform, and Rohit Sharma's not played test match cricket for a long time, for a year, so he's going to come back for Sydney without a tour game. Do you want Rohit Sharma to open in Sydney? For God's sake, if Shubman Gill gets runs, KL Rahul gets runs, you've got to ask questions of Hanuma Vihari. Hanuma Vihari has played New Zealand. Hanuma Vihari has played England. Hanuma Vihari has played this series. Does any knock stand out yet? Maybe not. So no one can take any spot for granted. And you can actually start thinking in terms of Rohit Sharma for the middle order for Sydney and Brisbane, because the shine would have gone. And Rohit Sharma is a masterful player against Nathan Lyon. So that is something I wanted to put on the table, but that's for later. For the moment, no, I don't see a Ravindra Jadeja replacing Virat Kohli in any sense. And coming to the Ajinkya Rahane question, which I didn't answer, I will not name the three people I've spoken to, but I've spoken to three of the greatest today after that Rahane dismissal. And each of them, I actually said it was a great ball. And I'm being very honest with you. I said, Ajju got a great ball. And I was told, go back. And it was like a class, and I was the student, and I learned I was told, go back, look at that ball, and look how much Ajinkya Rahane's foot has moved, and call us back. And by the way, all three said the same to me in different ways. In different ways. Each of the three I've spoken to. And each of the three are legends of the game. And believe me, if you go and check YouTube now or whatever host broadcaster now, you will see the foot doesn't move 2 inches. It doesn't move. It doesn't move. And I checked it not once but 10 times. And I was told that had it been, and I was given these examples, Ricky Ponting, Sachin Tendulkar, Matty Hayden, even a Virat Kohli. And once the foot moved there, Deep can tell us more, it would land up in the cover boundary. The ball didn't move an inch. So what unplayable ball are you taking? You've got to be decisive. This is test match cricket. So, and again, I'm telling you, three of the greatest people have told me this today, analyzing that dismissal. So intent, discipline, commitment, and mentally how you are will define Ajinkya Rahane in Melbourne. Do you agree with this assessment about the foot going out and it could have been a boundary?
Oh, I won't say boundary and all, but it's as simple as that. If the ball's moving around, now look at England. What do? If you need to cut down the lateral movement, you have to get forward, right? Because the later you play, unless it's on the back foot, but you can't play from the crease where there is lateral movement. Whether it's England or a pink ball test or South Africa, you have to be very definite with your footwork. Either it's back foot or it's front foot. You can't be playing from the crease because you giving the ball the opportunity to move, right? And laterally move. So when there is lateral movement, you have to get forward, try and cut down the angles. If possible, stand outside the crease. And this is not rocket science. I'm not saying something that people haven't done for hundreds of years in cricket. This is what you do when there is lateral movement. You stand outside the crease. You try and force yourself to move forward or go back, but don't play from the crease. You're giving the ball, and especially those good length balls. Listen, at this level and the quality that Cummins and Hazelwood have, they're not going to give you half volleys. They'll more often than not bowl you that 6 meter length, which is the good length. So you have to cut. You've got to cut that lateral movement. Stand outside the crease. Make sure you're committed forward. You straight away. If you're 6 inches your foot outside, right? So that's almost 3 feet. And then take a foot and a half with your footwork, and you're there. You're there to the pitch almost, right? So you're cutting down on that lateral movement. You're cutting down on that angle, and that's what needs to happen.
Okay, Ridhima, let me also give you one more piece. So I was saying that batting was tough, etc. And two of the three people I spoke to said, "Did you look at the Australian approach post lunch, post dinner?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes." And they said they started hooking, they started pulling. Did you see the change? I said, "Yes." And I was told,
Well, did I not ask?
Yes, Deep?
We lost his network, Purida.
Okay, so I was told that, did you see that? And I said, yes. And I was also told that Matthew Wade, and I was actually demoed this, said Matthew Wade, when the ball was being pulled, he said, and this is incredible. He said, either you play with the bat or you go forward. You cannot just show your body like this. It is not with the body. It's not with your shoulder that you will play that ball. So it's not as if Australia is any great. That was the point being told to me, that Matthew Wade, when they were coming at him round the wicket, he was showing this. Here, boom, gone. No, man. So the attitude also changed from Australia post dinner break. And I was told, this is test match cricket. You've got to do that. Look at and Deep, yes, but
no,
I don't
sorry.
know if you know.
What I was saying, I've
but they were
heard you.
showing me this Matthew Wade.
Right.
So go for it. Yeah.
So no, that's exactly what my question was yesterday. If you remember, when I asked you about Australian approach, 40 overs 80.
Yeah.
Because you know what, with a pink ball test match, this is my gut feeling and this is my assessment. You never said, irrespective of batting on 60, 160 or 6, you never said, right? And that's where I was a little surprised when I saw the Australians, because generally they are attacking batsmen, and that's how I see. Because end of the day, you're playing a 250 game. You're not playing a 400-run game, right? Maybe from here on, you're playing a 400-run game. But this test match was a 250-run game. That's where I think you have to take the attack to the opposition, make the bowlers do something different. I think, again, I might be completely wrong here, but I think both the sides in the first 3 innings were too defensive. somebody, I mean, I can understand Cheteshwar Pujara because that's how he bats. But some people like Matthew Wade, I mean, he's a naturally attacking batsman. Why was he defending? You know, I mean, because end of the day, that's something that I was told because I was, ultra defensive as a batsman. And this is what the legends of the game told me. He said, listen, you've got to score runs end of the day. And especially when you're playing outside the country, you know, you will get unplayable deliveries. And sooner or later, you will get one and you'll get out. So you might as well, when you're out there, I'm not saying you shut your eyes and start swinging your bat, but try and be a little more aggressive, a little more proactive and positive. And that's what I thought in the. I mean, I'm not talking about a batsman like Pujara because that's his batting style, but I'm talking about people who are stroke players from their perspective.
Yeah, fair point. All right, we are very quickly. We're a little over time the show, so we're going to take one question, which is very interesting. We got Ajinkya asking us, which trio is best according to you? Is it Cummins, Stark, Josh? Is it Bumrah, Shami, Ishant? Or is it Archer, Anderson, Broad?
See, it is difficult to say which trio because all 9 are incredible quality fast bowlers. And if you actually want to mix and match, you go and mix and match. But as a complete package, it also depends on conditions, right? I mean, if you are able to win test matches in overseas conditions and home conditions, that trio for me stands out. So, for example, if Anderson, Broad, and Archer come to India and win England that series, I know you will be up against us in England. That's fine. But if you come to India and win that series, or Australia, if Stark, Hazelwood, and Pat Cummins come on Indian soil and are able to roll over India, that's incredible. By the way, and Umesh Yadav has been extraordinarily successful in Indian soil also. And Ishant Sharma has been extremely good on Indian soil also. So let's not give these guys that stick and say, oh, you know what, they're better. No, I don't think. Mohammad Shami has been extraordinarily good on Indian soil also. So keep that in mind when you make a judgment. It's a tough one, but that's what I will say.
What about you, Deep? Make a choice here.
I will actually make a choice. I will rate them. And listen, all 9 of them are great bowlers, right? So we are talking about Ferraris and Lamborghinis here, right? And Bugattis and all. So I'm going to say this. I think I will, and for the reasons, as Boria mentioned, about conditions, across all conditions, whether it's a subcontinent or outside, I will actually rate Bumrah, Shami over. First will be the Indian combination, then the Australian, third will be the English. That's how it. But again, let me please reiterate: we're talking about a Ferrari, Lamborghini, and a Bugatti there.
No, absolutely. And thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks a lot. I'm just saying it's 2020 and YouTube couldn't have chosen today to sort of collapse. We'd have at least lesser number of shows than 36 for 9, man. But thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks a lot for joining.
I'll leave you with one more thing, Ridhima.
Yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
While we say international sport and mentally it's challenging, etc., Rohit Sharma is in a 2-bedroom Sydney apartment getting the news that there are clusters in Sydney and the match could be moved away. And Australian commentators are being stood down. And Australian players are flying in chartered aircrafts to Melbourne and other places. And he can't step out of his apartment room because he's in hard quarantine.
Nice.
As a cricketer, think about it. Think what he's going through mentally. He's fulfilled 3 days of his 14 days. Today is day 3 and tomorrow's 4. So 10, 11 more days in that 2-bedroom apartment all by yourself. You can't even step out of the door. How about that? If that's not mentally challenging, I don't know what mentally challenging thing is.
That's a brilliant point. No, absolutely. And see, that's the thing about the sport and sports in general, that just when you think you've seen it all, there is a surprise. Today was the day. And of course, the pandemic has taught us more to, things like this. But thank you so much, gentlemen. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Deep, for joining us all the way from Goa. Thank you, Burada. And thanks for everyone for joining in. It's going to be a new day. It's not over. We are 1 down. Australia's 1 up. But of course, we'll have a better morning. So thank you so much for joining in and stay tuned to Sports Today for all the news and updates. We're doing some good content and we need your feedback. So feel free to put it in. Thank you.